Hello, Raven fans, Oriole fans. So thank you for joining us this week on the Ravery Sports Podcast, the Baltimore Sports Podcast for fans like me. Thank you for joining us on our YouTube channel, our Twitch channel, our X page. I keep wanting to say Twitter. X page. Thank you for joining us on that. Thank you for joining us on Facebook. However you're watching, thank you so much for wherever you are, for spending part of your Christmas holiday and time. I know, like right now, people have a lot of time for shopping and doing other things, and hey, you're busy. And thank you very much for taking the time to watch our video and take this as a distraction for you to watch a little football, talk a little football and baseball here with us. A little basketball today. Going to go over the Maryland game. So thank you very much for joining us. Let's work backwards. Ravery Sports Best of 2023 video. So definitely we're going to have some channel announcements that night. We're going to have a major announcement about our channel going forward in 2024. Something very cool that's happening for all of you out there. So a little teaser there. And so definitely that's going to be available New Year's Eve around 10 o'clock. Definitely check that out before you go out on New Year's Eve or whatever you're doing. So also too, Genesis Notary Services is our notary business. So definitely if you live in the Shenandoah Valley area, that's just for you in the Shenandoah Valley area, you can go ahead and watch at facebook.com. Genesis Notary Services at facebook.com. You can book time, or you can go on Google, Genesis Notary Services, Winchester, Virginia, and you can definitely check us out there. ravorisports.company.site is the website. So definitely last chance to get that Christmas present, and not just Christmas, into the new year. So you can go ahead and next year and go ahead and get some Christmas presents as well. That is going to be changing as well going forward as well. Hopefully for sure next year we're going to looking to get an app for it. Also looking to see if we can get products where you can buy on our Facebook page and Instagram and all that stuff. So working on that right now. Let's talk NFL. So, Ravens and the Jags. You see the score 24-7. Ravens were victorious as far as they were in Jacksonville. The old Gator Bowl is what it's called. Everbank Stadium. I was actually a bit surprised by some of the analysis I heard from a lot of these analysts as far as what the Ravens did. I was pretty impressed. I mean, you call it purple colored glasses, but I was pretty impressed. I thought it was a good win for the Ravens. Good. I mean, it's a good team. Jacksonville has some issues, but Jacksonville still, I mean, they probably get in the playoffs, probably win the division. Lamar, 14 for 24, 171, 1 TD. He did have the one interception in the game, 12 carries, 97 yards. He has been getting better as a runner as the season has went along. He looks, I've said this, he looks fresher than I've seen. Like at this point in the season, even the year 2019 when he won MVP, maybe some of the problem in the playoffs, he's pretty banged up by the time they get there. He missed part of the season. He looks about as fresh at the end of the year as I've seen him in his career this year. So he looks actually pretty ready to go, ready for the player. He looks like his tank is a lot more full than it's been. As far as this game, I was more impressed with this than he was last week. Excellent throw to Isaiah Likely, high pointing that ball. Likely with an even better catch, catching it over two defenders. I thought that was tremendous as well. Spreading the ball around, that's kind of what they've been doing. Todd Monken, nobody eats a whole lot. Beckham caught one. Zay Flowers caught one. Likely, I think, had the best night. But hey, spreading the ball around, taking what they give him, taking what that's about what they're doing. Not a tremendous amount of yards, but they put the ball in the end zone when they needed to. So good job. I think I was impressed with this all the way around. Keaton Mitchell, 9 for 73, nine carries for 73 yards. Nasty. Breaking of his leg. Looks like out for the season without the question. Your leg is not supposed to bend like that. So thoughts are to Anthony Mitchell and the rest of his family for that. That looked nasty. I could say this. You're not going to see that on my site where they were showing the picture. I'm not doing that. That's come on, guys. Don't do that. I mean, I guess it's not my call what anybody else does, but I saw that like some people had the slow-mo of that. And just I'm not doing that. Come on. I purposely didn't do that. That's just come on. But Keaton, I think they are going to have a hole to fill this year. They actually said it during the broadcast. I thought kind of what my thought was why he didn't play more. Whereas, it was the pass blocking why he didn't play more. So when they had to really pass block and they were doing different stuff, they would go ahead and play Justice Hill. And if they were doing it more, he didn't play as much. That kind of made sense to me that he was young and he hadn't picked it up yet. So that was kind of my thought as well. It's kind of what was iterated. But he's out for the season. You're going to have Justice Hill. Melvin Gordon was moved up. Jake Funk was signed. Former Terp was signed to the practice squad. Isaiah Likely, the late Frank Wycheck is smiling every time you see Isaiah Likely. I got a lot. I think that's what he is. He's an H-back. I almost never see him catch balls right on that line of scrimmage. He's always like outside or in motion or doing something else or whatever. He does just fine. He's not a Mark Andrews by any stretch, but he's just fine in the role he's in without Andrews. I've seen him play well every time Andrews doesn't play. He struggles a bit because he is unique, I think, with Andrews in the game. You kind of use him as more of a traditional tight end, and that's not what he does. I think he's better like this. By himself in a unique fashion, catching passes. 5 for 71 TD. That was one of the best catches in the NFL season he made over those two defenders late in the game in the third quarter. Kyle Hamilton. What, 14? You heard it. Where Trevor Lawrence was saying that, looking for Kyle Hamilton. Good idea. Kyle Hamilton all over the field. So we didn't even know that Kyle was going to play in this game. He's a young guy, first, second-year guys. They bounce back. Fantastic, this guy. Doesn't matter where he lines up. You can line him up outside on a corner. You can line him up on the line of scrimmage as a linebacker. You can line him up at the end. You can line him up as a traditional safety. It doesn't matter. This guy is the total package as far as that goes. Exactly what you want. There aren't a lot of these guys in the league, by the way. Safeties, I did a video of the top 10 safeties. It's really hard to pick that out because safeties now are so specialized. They even on good teams or even ones that are good players, they kind of do one thing, but they don't do a whole lot of things. Kyle Hamilton does a whole lot of things. So Kyle Hamilton was fantastic. I thought him and Matabuke on defense were the stole the show. I think they tried to stay away from Roquan as well. A lot of that stuff, a lot of crosser stuff outside the numbers. Trevor Lawrence, 25 for 43, 264, 1 TD. That was typical Trevor Lawrence. Numbers look great, but there's something missing there. He's not fundamentally sound. It's funny. Rarely do quarterbacks throw outside the numbers better than they do inside the numbers. Like it's weird. He could throw it on a rope, throw it down the line, throw it in the traffic, makes the tough ones, and then like an easy one he'll miss. He'll miss the flat. He'll miss something quick, or he won't see a guy, or he is beyond talented, uber talented. He has every bit the talent of Lamar Jackson, but he doesn't execute as well always. And I don't think what isn't his fault. I don't think that team is good enough to overcome that in some cases. I don't think they're as good as they need to be in some areas. Travis Etienne was pretty quiet, 10 for 31. That was about as low a production as him, and I think most of that was they were behind most of the game, so they didn't run the ball. So I think they threw more in this one. I think Etienne's a really good player. I don't think he wasn't too much of a factor in this one. Ravens got ahead, and I think that kind of limited him. Jamal Agnew, not Calvin Ridley, not Christian Kirk, who didn't play. Jamal Agnew, that big long pass play, what did it? The 70-yard, the 30-plus yard TD by Agnew basically got that number up for him. Let me tell you something. I don't know what people are saying if they say the Ravens can't play man-to-man. Brandon Stevens is a killer. Even against Ayuk this week, we're going to get to the Niners game, obviously. But, man, impressive stuff from the Ravens, I think, on defense. Brandon, great stuff on defense as well. Not a lot from Ridley. Ridley, he kind of got cheated. I would say maybe got cheated out of the one catch. They had some bad calls going against him, but not a lot from him. It wasn't a huge day. Trayvon Walker, I think, was pretty good in this game. He's coming along. I think maybe he was overdrafted, so maybe the expectation is too high. But I think he's getting there. I think he was pretty good. Stanley was not good against him. I mean, I don't know. I saw something just before I did the stream. Somebody was defending Ronnie Stanley. I don't get it. I mean, he was clearly benched. Macchiari, I think Macchiari might go the whole way this week. Whether he's injured, maybe, and it could be he's just not right or just injured or whatever it is. Clearly, he's not the same as he was. So I think Jaguars have some holes on defense. I think their front four is good inside, but they don't have secondary players. They're kind of missing some things. So there you go with that 24-7. And let the hype begin with this. Ravens and the 49ers. Oh, yeah. Quote Randy Savage, the late Randy Savage. 11-3. 11-3. These are the two best records in the NFL. The number one seed, Ravens in the AFC. Number one seed in the NFC, San Francisco 49ers. Two best teams, I think. I don't think there's any question about it that these are the two best teams in the league right now. I think if you want to say Dallas or Philly, I think they're behind. Everybody is behind, and their record shows it. Ravens don't always win in pretty fashion. I got to tell you, they've won. That 11-3 could have very nearly been 14-0. Even the 3 games they lost in very close fashion. They could easily have won all those games. Niners, they've won every game. They had a 3-game stretch where they were missing some bodies. They lost a couple close games, and they easily could have been the same. They've been in every game. So I don't think there's any question about it. These are the two best teams. They're going to play Christmas night. I think I got that channel wrong. So it's ABC. I'm sorry. So it's ABC where the game is on. I think ESPN Plus as well will have it. Let's get it going. Lamar Jackson. This game is going to determine a lot as far as the MVP. There are several MVP candidates in this one. Lamar Jackson, and on the other side, Brock Purdy and Christian McCaffrey. So I think Lamar's been fantastic this year. 17 touchdowns, 17 interceptions. I don't know if he's done enough to win MVP. That'll be close. Honestly, the thing about this game, I don't know if the result of this game matters as much in the big picture sense. I think the Miami game means a little bit more in terms of the record. As far as the most valuable player, this is going to go a long way because you're going to have a game against Brock Purdy and Christian McCaffrey that are clearly in the race. So I think who emerges here, he has a really good opportunity. He can go out there in this game and do it. And I think he should. I think this is a tough, very tough 49er defense he's going against. So we're going to have more Gus Edwards, I'm sure of it, in this game because you're not going to have Keaton Mitchell. Gus, hey, look, 10 touchdowns. I think it's 10. I might have 10 or 11. I think I might have missed. I don't know if I messed up or not. He got another one in this last game. But he's been tremendous in short yardage and then around the goal line. Uh, Look, they've been lucky to have him. They had Keaton Mitchell go down. They had J.K. go down before the season. They still had a solid run game. And that is the guy that's been the luggage carrier for them most of the years, the leading rusher, Gus Edwards. Zay has been a little quieter the last few weeks. 65, 680, 380. I think he had like one catch. They're not going to feed him a lot. He's going to have to manufacture opportunities. Him and Beckham, it's going to be the answer you're going to get from John Harbaugh, how the game goes, who gets, they're not going to just seek him out. He's going to have to find ways, get open, and do that. I think he will. I think he's going to have a pretty good day against the secondary. I think him in particular and Beckham, that's going to be a good day I think they are going to have in this one. Kyle Hamilton, watch 14. He's going to be needed in this one because their offense is very dynamic on San Fran. Very good offense that they have. This is a perfect guy to go against it, though, because he, like you said, he can do so many different things. Kyle Hamilton, he's going to be at the line of scrimmage. He's going to be in coverage. A guy like Deebo Samuel who lines up in different spots. Kyle Hamilton can line up in different spots. I think that is going to be most of his duty. He's going to be following around Deebo Samuel pretty good. I think also, too, Brandon Stevens is going to be on Ayuk a lot. Brandon Stevens has been fantastic. Marlon Humphrey, much better. Look, much healthier, played much better against the Jags. Like this. They weren't testing him as much. They thought, again, I don't think it was a great idea to go after Stevens, but I thought from what I did see when they did, much better, much improved from them. So I think the secondary is going to be key against this offense. Not worried about the linebacking core. We know how good they are. Roquan, et cetera, against that great 49er run game. Brock Purdy, MVP candidate. Look, stop saying this guy was a 7th round pick and it doesn't blah, blah, blah. Brock Purdy, I think, is probably the front runner for MVP. You can't do what he's done, and it's everybody else. Look at those numbers. Almost 4,000 yards passing, getting up near 4,000 yard passing, almost 30 touchdowns, only to 7 interceptions. He's got a crew. But whenever I hear Brock Purdy analysis, it's always and that's true. I mean, it's fair enough. But I don't think the line is actually great in San Fran, outside of Trent Williams, who's tremendous. But they have some real issues as well. Their line has real issues, but this guy is no question. When I see him, this guy is fantastic as well. Here's another MVP candidate, Christian McCaffrey. If I include the passing stats in this, he's got like 20 touchdowns. McCaffrey is got 1,200 yards, easy best running back in the league, no question about it. Christian McCaffrey, 244 for 1,292. He's changed the whole thing. They always have had good run game because of the system, because of the scheme. But they haven't had this. You can see it. He's a home run hitter. He's a guy that can break big plays as well. And the rest of it, tough matchup with Chris McCaffrey. Here's another guy, Brandon Ayuk, kind of the quieter of the group. Kind of like, I'll answer it. Well, I'll put it this way, probably less famous, less talked about. They talk more about Deebo Samuel. They talk more about George Kittle, who are outstanding. But Brandon Ayuk, I think, is their leading receiver. He's great. I think what you're going to see with him a lot of is you're going to see Stevens on him a lot. And I think that's a good idea. I think that's a great. Stevens has been fantastic all year. Ayuk has been fantastic all year. So this is a best on best, as they say in football situation. Two of the better players in the entire league going up against each other as well. Nick Bosa, 10.5 sacks. Some people saying he's having like a down year. That's pretty good. 10.5 sacks. Their defense, personnel-wise, there's no better team in the league. Statistically, they're not as good as Cleveland and not as good as Baltimore. Personnel-wise, so many good players. I mean, Fred Warner, Fred Warner, Cherish Ward, lots of good players on that San Francisco defense. So they're good. They got Montez Sweat on the other side. Very, very tough assignment there. Ronnie Stanley needs to show up. This is part of why I think he might get benched this week, because you're going against Nick Bosa. You have such great pass rush on there. Who's the X factor in this? So maybe good, maybe bad. X factor. Patrick McCary. I'm definitely thinking they're going to go with him this week. I don't know the practice reports. I don't know if Stanley is. I know this. John Harbaugh cannot be happy what he's seeing from Ronnie Stanley. He's been. I think. He just hasn't played well. He just hasn't played well as it thought. I don't think it's been horrible at all points. I think there has been some over dramatization, but he can't play full quarters. Patrick McCary, how well does he do against Nick Bosa and Montez Sweat is going to decide a lot as well. Kyle Van Noy, good addition. I think he's been quiet for the last couple of weeks. I think they kind of need Kyle Van Noy, especially to wake up a little bit. Javius Clowney, definitely wake up. You're gonna beat this guys. You're gonna have to get some heat. You're gonna have to have something. You can't just be Manabuke. It's got to be from Van Noy and Clowney, outside linebackers, or Dafiole as well. But Van Noy, especially, I think has been the quietest. So I think gotta get up going a little bit as far as getting that squared away. Results, yeah. Here's the thing. I don't think they win this game. I think it's going to be tough to go across country and beat these guys. I think it'll be close. I don't know if you beat San Fran. I think if this game had been downtown Baltimore, I think they win. But I don't think they're that far away from San Fran as well. I don't think they win this game. Hopefully, I'm wrong, obviously, but I don't think they're successful against the Niners. I do think the good news is I don't think this result matters as much as all the hype's going to be. There's going to be a lot of hype. There's going to be a lot of people watching, obviously. It's a Christmas night game. I don't think the bigger matchup, I think, is going to be next week against Miami. That's going to matter more as far as the number one seed and all that. And this is a good chance for them to see the Niners. Both teams. You get to see how good George Kittle. You get another look at him. That's good. That matters if you're going to play him in the Super Bowl. So definitely, we're going to check that out as well. Kind of a big game coming, isn't it? So, yeah, Ravens at 49ers Monday night, rather. ABC is the channel, so as well. So definitely check that out as well. Let's get to the big five. 5 biggest games on the schedule that are not Raven games. 5 biggest games that are not Raven games on the schedule. Big 5 last week. I'm going to talk about 2 at the same time because I think basically similar things apply. Dallas and Buffalo, and the Monday night game, Philadelphia and Seattle. I did predict Seattle would win. I did predict Buffalo would win. I don't think, and if I'm Dallas and Philly, I don't worry too much about either team. It's tough to win in Buffalo. Those are 2 of the tougher home fields in the entire league. Seattle, I think, they have a real home field advantage. Home field advantage is not nearly what it was in the NFL. Not in Buffalo, not in Seattle. Seattle has that crowd. I think they have the best crowd, I think, in the entire league. And I think Philly plays a lot of games close to the vest. If I'm Philly, I'm not worried. This is kind of what you've been all year. You're due to lose one of these. Drew Lock just had a great drive at the end and got him in the end, and that was the ball game. Tough to win in Buffalo. A lot of you young fans don't realize how part of the reason for the Bills' success in the 90s, it is so daggone cold in Buffalo. It wasn't so much Sunday, but it's tough to win these road games. Dallas isn't good on the road for whatever reason. And that's not the place to get healthy. Bills, I think, have kind of righted the ship a bit. They've had some injuries. There was scuffling. I think they've kind of righted the ship. So Buffalo is going to be pretty good going forward. The game this week we're going to talk about with Dallas, I think, is a bigger tell for them than that one when they're playing. Na. Hey, Steelers home. Oh my God, the Steelers. No, they're going to start Mason Rudolph this week. Trubisky's awful. Trubisky's awful. They may play. Mason Rudolph should play if he's Penny Pick is not healthy enough to go, which he might be. Indy's hanging in there. Indy, I think Minshew, they're kind of going as he's going, and he's playing hard. I mean, they're scoring some points. I can tell you that. I mean, they're definitely scoring some points. Two more. Minnesota and Cincinnati. Very good game. Minnesota and Cincinnati, very good game. Jake Browning is saving the Bengals here. I don't know if they get in, but they're competitive. Good job by Jake Browning as well. Minnesota, I think if they only had a quarterback, I think you kind of see with Minnesota. I like their coaching. I like a lot of things about them. They don't have the coaching. And Denver and the Lions have been with they all year long. I think they're probably the third or fourth best team in the NFC. They're right there. So you got Dallas, Philadelphia, San Fran, and Detroit in the top four. San Fran is clearly one. I think the other three are fighting for 3-4. They've kind of been what they've been all year. Very physical team, great offensive line, great team. I mean, pretty good as well. The Russell and Sean thing, Tom Payton, who cares? I don't know what he was yelling at. I don't know why people think that's a big deal that he was getting yelled at. I mean, he's been not great for. I mean, I've seen that coming. So I don't even know what it was about, but everybody's making a big deal about the fact that he's getting yelled at. Of course, he's supposed to do that. Here we go. Big five. Saints fighting for first place in the South against the Rams. I think this is pretty decisively the Rams are better team. They shouldn't be, again, with the talent the Saints have. They clearly, the coaching, it's not even close. Rams offense has been good. Cooper Kupp is showing back up. Puka Nacua has been good all year long. The Williams, the running back, is really good. Stafford has been showing up. Their young guys on defense playing well. I definitely think the Saints are inconsistent. Saints are too inconsistent. With the guys that they have, they should be. Carr, stat-wise, it looks okay. Kind of like Trevor Lawrence. Kind of like good. It looks, the stats look good, but you're not winning the games. You're not doing just enough. You're kind of like having lulls. So I like the Rams in this one. Saints, though, with a lot to play for. Kind of like what I said with the Ravens. Their game coming up against Tampa is kind of bigger than this one. Squealers, yeah, and the Bengals. I think it's kind of over there in Pittsburgh. They're still in it, so I don't think it's a thing whether they're going to be in it or not. I think the fans have certainly had enough. The Squealer fans, they're usually so annoying. They're annoying now the other way. It's not focused on us. It's focused on Tomlin. Jake Browning has been good. I still think if they could get some quarterback play, they get some help. I think the defense is kind of folding under too, outside of their outside. Their teams are running the ball and having success. So I like the Bengals in this one. Let the Flacco mania continue as they're going against the Browns, as they're going against the Texans. I don't think they beat the Texans. Texans are really good. Texans have a good defense. I think DeMeco Ryans is an excellent coach. Stroud has gotten knocked out, so I think that changes the math as well for them. They didn't, surprisingly, they didn't go with Davis Mills. They went with Case Keenum. So I'm going to take the Browns. I think they have the best defense in the league. And Flacco's playing well. I don't think there's any question about it. 3 TDs, you have 3 INTs, and they have 2 touchdowns. I don't want to see him in the playoffs. I think he could take them there. They're going to have 10 wins with 4 quarterbacks. That's impressive. The Vikes going against the Lions. I like the Lions here. I don't like Minnesota a whole lot. Again, they're one of these teams you don't know who's going to show up. They scored 3 points one week, or just no. I mean, again, quarterback away. I think in Minnesota, quarterback away. I think like that. The Lions have been pretty consistent. They've had some games that are not so great because they're really still kind of young. I mean, they haven't been there yet, except for Goff. So, but I think they're still finding a way. They're really good. They're one of the top 4 teams. Definitely, I like the Lions. Outside of the Ravens game, I think this is the biggest game on the schedule. The Cowboys are going into Miami, the old Jimmy Johnson Bowl. I'm sure Jimmy Johnson coached for both teams here. This is a tougher one. I think this is a bigger tell for the Cowboys against the Dolphins because the Dolphins are have inferior talent. I think we don't know if Tyreek Hill's going to play in this one. He's missed the last couple games. We don't know that for sure if he's going to play. They should win a game like this, but they have struggled so much on the road. It's hard to take them. I think I could say this: a guy who should be in the conversation for MVP, I don't think he's going to be, is Tua Tagovailoa. I didn't think he played all this year. He stayed up all year. They've got him right. I think he's been fantastic for him. I think they win this game. I think they beat Dallas. I think this says more, I would say. Dallas winning and losing this game, not even winning. If they get rolled in this game, this is kind of going to be a tell for me as far as that goes. Dolphins, I think, have a bigger game next week at the Ravens. I think regardless, I think they can win this game, but I think that game will have more impact on than this one. This will help them as well. There you go. Big five. 5 biggest games on the schedule that are not Raven games. 5 biggest games that are not Raven games. Definitely enjoy all the games this weekend. Some of these are on Thursday. Some of these are on Saturday. Some are on. So because this week of Christmas, even more, you're going to have games kind of scattered out a little bit. So not necessarily the full Sunday slate like it was. All right. Let's talk a little Maryland basketball here. Terps and the UCLA Bruins. So the Terps going against a blue blood, the UCLA Bruins. In this game, it's going to be at Pauley Pavilion. So Pauley Pavilion, one of the oldest, most revered facilities in all of college basketball as well. So it is going to be on Friday night as well. Bruins just lost their last game. They struggled. So they struggled against Ohio State, struggled against Cal State Northridge as well. Mick Cronin is the head coach for the Bruins. And let's see how the Terps do as well in this one. So that record, I don't even think that's right. I think they lost their last game. So they're 5-5. So again, young Bruins team, very good last year against the Terps. Terps should be favored in this game. Jameer Young, 17.2 assists, 4.2 assists last night. Now this stats was a little bit before the Nicholls State game. This was not after the game as well. So I didn't update. So if you're seeing it, well, it's kind of it was before the Nicholls State game. This is your guy. I think they kind of reverted back to what they need to do, and that's get the ball in Jameer Young's hands as much as possible, right? So that's kind of what they're doing as well. Getting the ball in his hands, letting him create, letting him do his thing, and let everybody else feed off of him. And that's the thing. They're freshmen, their main freshmen. They got a good group of freshmen, but we're talking about Deshaun Harris-Smith. Look, it's been in the gym with the coach every morning, working on the J, working on that jumper. Like to hear that. Kevin Willard been working with him. I think that's the biggest flaw in this game because he's not going to get the ball enough with Jameer Young on the team to actually go to the rim because I think that's his strength. Actually going to the rim, slashing, cutting, things like that. So now that they're okay, you're not going to be sharing the role with Young. You got to you got to shoot more. you got to play standstill. You got to get behind screens, et cetera, et cetera. That's what they're working on with him. So he's a work in progress. Lots of talent from that young guy. Julian Reese, I think, is their outstanding center. I think at some point, They're going to go ahead and use him more. Uh, they're going to use him more at center. Uh, they're going to. I wish they could use him at power forward, but he's been playing center. I think he's going to be the second leading scorer. Sebastian Mack. Look, they've lost a lot of guys. This is a very young team, UCLA. 13-5, 13.5 points a game, 2 assists. I saw him against Ohio State. I don't think he's as good as Jameer Young is. I think he's kind of like more on the closer to a little bit Harris Smith. But because they're so young, lots of freshmen and sophomores on this team. Team won 30-plus games last year. Now they're basically playing a group of sophomores. Here's a sophomore, Dylan Andrews, more of a jump shooter. In his case, more of a combo guard. So part point guard, whatever. I think he's probably your third best player on the team. Adam Bonona, he's their best player. 13 points, 13 points, 6.4 rebounds. Lots of size. I think that's the key here in this Maryland game. Maryland has been using Julian Reese at center. They have Bona going ahead playing power forward, who's bigger than Julian Reese. They have a 7-footer. So I think that's going to be the issue. I think the Bruins here are not going to win this game. You thought you were going to hear something else. I think they're a little. I think they're a little green. I think they're going to struggle. They're a blue blood. I think they're possibly a year away. Here's the thing with the Terps. Terps are supposed to win this game. They didn't look great against Nicholls State either. I think like they're you can't fall asleep in some ways. So they're getting a chance here to build that record up and get it together. But I think they kind of figured out more who they are, where I think UCLA hasn't yet. So we're still getting that squared away as well. I think Terps win big in this one. They win, I think, by like 10, 12 points. They should against a UCLA team that's still trying to find a way. We will see about this. So looking forward to watching the Terps. Next week, we're going to go ahead and talk a little bit more Terps there. All right. So we are going ahead and getting this squared away. Couple Oriole notes before we get to this very cool, something I've been wanting to do here for the Orioles for a while. Let's go ahead and do this. Go to the Gunnar Henderson. So we have this Gunnar Henderson interview. I've played a little bit of it. This is fair use. YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter and Twitch. So this is fair use. He talks a little bit about what we're worried about here. Flippin' Bats is doing an interview podcast. Alex Curry, shout out Alex Curry and Ben Verlander baseball podcast. Very cool if you haven't checked that out. But they're talking to our Rookie of the Year winner, Gunnar Henderson. He's talking a little bit about his contract with the Orioles. So fair use.
Exactly.
Speaking of contracts, Gunnar, word is from the Baltimore Orioles that they are interested at least in an extension. Of course they are. They should be. Have the Orioles yet reached out to you about an extension?
Not that I'm aware of so far.
Is that something that you want or hope it happens soon?
I would love to. I mean, just depends on what they're willing. I mean, it'll be cool to play in Baltimore for a while.
Yeah.
And I mean, they've been nothing but great to me so far. So it's been really fun to be able to play for them.
Speaking of playing in Baltimore, before I
Exactly.
Speaking
of- okay. So there you go. There, just a little bit of that. So they haven't talked to him about the interview, which is ridiculous. I kind of wanted to play that and just. However, the good news is we do have a new 30-year lease signed for the Orioles, so it looks like they got two. It's 15 years, and then you can revisit it in 15 more years. They're going to get $600 million from the state of Maryland to go ahead and keep the team in Baltimore. So that's a very good thing as well. that they're able to do that. So it is good to hear. I don't necessarily love, like a lot of you, taxpayer money being spent on baseball team, but honestly, this is how more businesses are than what we realize at times. A lot of businesses take a lot of money and it's not just it's not just the Orioles are doing that. I mean, sports kind of takes a beating for doing this, but I mean, I live here in Frederick County, Virginia. I won't say the names of the businesses, but every large one here, the county's paying for it. The city's paying, the county's paying, bought them a building or bought them infrastructure or bought, this goes on. So Orioles are no different. Good that they're staying, obviously. Good that they got a deal done. Hopefully we can get some upgrades now at Camden Yards and everything as they continue actually to be in the community as well. All right. Excited about this. All right. So one of the changes I'm gonna do to the channel is it's gonna be, especially YouTube channel as well, is in 2024. You're gonna have more. It's going to be more of a YouTube channel. So what we've been doing is we've been doing just a podcast on there, and the hour format. Where now it's going to be more a little bit in the beginning, but segments where you're going to have a YouTube video in the podcast. So we're going to be chopping up some of the podcasts, more of a true YouTube channel in that sense, and try that out and see that is. Look at what we're talking about. Baltimore Orioles best infield players of all time. So this is like, now we're deeper in the off season. We've talked about the lease. We've talked about free agency, etc. Orioles didn't make a signing as well. I was remiss. Jonathan from the Kansas City Royals, so he should be in the bullpen mix. Orioles made a trade. So we're looking at that as well. Let's go ahead and talk about this. Some of the greatest players to ever play for the Orioles. Okay. Now, a Ravens video, I think, was easier to do. I thought it'd be easier to do in one sense because I've lived the whole Ravens life here, right? The Ravens started in 96. I was, 19 years old when the Ravens here. I've been able to watch the whole history. I've been able to watch everything. So I know all the Ravens players. Some of these players that are going to be on this list kind of predate time a little bit. Here's what was harder, definitely, about the Orioles list for me is that the recent years haven't been so good. So many times we've had to pull to the past to go ahead and get some of these great players that we've had. So we're going to do infield this week. Next week, we're going to do outfield and pitching, and we're going to go over who are the greatest players in Orioles all-time history as far as some of the great players. Real quick here, as far as the list goes, what's on the list? What's required? Orioles stats matter. So there are certain players that did well with other teams, whatever, that are all-time players, as we know, like Reggie Jackson. Like I saw in one, like Reggie Jackson was a great player all-time, but only 1 year with the Orioles, something like that. Did you win a World Series with the Orioles? Did you actually have a long-term success, etc.? Those things matter. Okay. Gustrianos. Let's go backwards up. Let's do it right this. Matt Wieters. Kind of what we see with Adley. A lot of hype. This guy was a number 1 overall pick. A lot of people thought that this was going to be one of the greatest catchers of all time for the Orioles. He's in the top 5. You might say a little disappointing considering the hype, but I think he overall a very good career. Guy could hit for power. Guy had a great catching arm. Not a super duper catcher, but pretty good. I thought all things considered, he had a good career. He's definitely top 5 as far as catchers. How about a little rain dance? Rick Dempsey, Orioles, one of the announcers of the Orioles, former announcers of the Orioles. Dempsey, I think, is one of the favorites. I think he's more beloved than maybe his on-field play would suggest. Dempsey was good in 83 World Series. I think that's it. He was the 83 World Series MVP. I thought he had a great career. he was a defensive catcher. That used to matter more. Like a guy, I think it's going to matter again in the current game, but he was a great defensive guy. He was a guy that really was a leader on the franchise as well, kind of like right up there as far as leadership with Cal and Eddie at the time that he played. So Dempsey definitely makes the list. Long tenure with the Orioles as well. Andy Etchebarren, one of my mom's favorite players, Andy Etchebarren. Long tenure with the Orioles. You look at the stats, Andy Etchebarren definitely belongs here as one of the top 3 players, one of the great catchers that the Orioles had. Definitely played early in the good history here, early in the 60s and 70s and all that the Orioles had with catchers. More modern day, Chris Hoyles. Hoyles actually followed one of the guys that didn't make the list here, Mickey Tettleton. I used to love to watch Mickey Tettleton play as an Oriole, and Chris Hoyles took his spot. Chris Hoyles was fantastic. Chris Hoyles, I think he had a longer, steady career. Now, defense wasn't there. Power hitter. I think possibly the best power hitting catcher the Orioles have ever had on the list. Gus Trianos holds every record, every catching record, every statistical record, every one. Have to put him number 1. Gus Trianos, one of the first catchers the Orioles had, and I still think the best catcher the Orioles ever had. I couldn't put Adley on as much as I love Mickey Tettleton. He was below these guys as well. So, first base. Yes, that's right. Chris Davis. That's right. I looked at it so many times. I was so convinced that he wouldn't be on here. Statistically, I don't think he's been good. I think like we forget that Chris Davis, the years he was good, he had a lot of home runs. He was very effective. I definitely think Chris Davis is one of the best. Put him in the top 5 statistically. He absolutely belongs there. Jim Gentile. This guy was very successful with the Orioles. Definitely, you look at the stats statistically, one of the better hitters that the Orioles ever had. Contact hitter. That's what Jim Gentile was. Can hit the ball for contact back there. Very rare at first base. Rafael Palmeiro. Yeah, man. Absolutely would be in the Hall of Fame had it not been for the steroids and all that stuff. No question about it. He's one of the few. I think a lot of people over carried away with the steroids. I mean, he failed the test. I mean, I don't think there's any question about it. I don't think that takes away from his production on the field. I thought he's kind of underrated, considering how many times he hit 30+ home runs, 100 RBIs. He was automatic for that for several years. The Boog, another one of my mom's favorite players, Boog Powell. Old school home run hitter, power hitter. He had great barbecue for years out there, and he was a great compliment to Brooks Robinson. So I think definitely a true Oriole on this list. Definitely. You talk about Gentile, Palmer, true Oriole through and through. Definitely their long career power hitting numbers were outstanding, no question about it. Number 1, Eddie Murray, maybe one of my favorite Orioles of all time. He's not number 1 because he's my favorite. Number 1 because he was a fantastic hitter, fantastic power hitter, fantastic eye at the plate. Defensively, he kind of I thought he was much better defensively than he ever got credit for too. Very good defensive player as well. I don't think there's any question about it. Look, Cal Ripken, when he won the 21-31, when he got the all-time record, he thanked his mom. I'll never forget. He thanked his mom. He thanked his dad. He thanked a lot of his teammates. He specifically named Eddie Murray. That's pretty high praise to have a guy that has that. Second base, not as strong in general, not as strong on this list, but we got some good players here. Rich Dower. This guy was a contributor for a many number of years. You don't see guys like this anymore. Like you see it nowadays, like a Jorge Mateo, a guy who's just a contributor, a guy who's like a pinch hitter, a guy. That's what Rich Dower was. This strength for so many years in the 70s, 80s. Definitely a contributing player at second base for so many years. Now, you may know Davey more as a manager. I think he's one of the greatest managers that ever was, Davey Johnson. He was also a very good second baseman. I think he was so excited when he came here as a manager, got into it with the Angelos family. He was a good second baseman, kind of like the old school, like tone setting, good on his side. of the field, could hit. Davey, I thought was outstanding, outstanding manager and fourth on this list. Stat wise, definitely belongs there. Roberto Alomar. So he was, I think, one of the best players ever to ever play second base. You go ahead and you look at this with Roberto Alomar, one of the greatest players to ever play the position, one of the greatest hitters of all time at the position. I think he's lower on the list had he stayed in Oriole his whole career. Some people like him better than Joe Morgan, but I think he started maybe more as a Blue Jay than an Oriole, but he was fantastic his whole career. 20-plus home run hitter. I thought like he was also too outstanding defensively. Outstanding defensive player Roberto Alomar was. Brian Roberts. Shout out Brian Roberts. I think the only thing wrong with Roberts is what he was on some bad teams. This is what I see missing a lot of times in the league. Like a guy like Brian Roberts, a table setter. Okay, so many times now, like Gunnar may hit first this year. You get a Brian Roberts, he sets the tone. He's going to get on base. He's going to get you a bunt. He's going to get down there. He's going to allow. You need a guy that's going to allow you to drive those runs in, and that's Brian Roberts. Brian Roberts stole a lot of bases, hit well, perfect, great leadoff man. Bobby Grich was fantastic for so many years. The name, just love the name, Bobby Grich. Then that's kind of how he played. He was kind of rough, tumble, very cool the way he played. Stats definitely belong there. Long-time Oriole, Bobby Grich, number one as far as the number one spot there. Two more spots. Tony Batista. So played a couple years with the Orioles, third base, hit for power. That's what he did. That's why he's there. Did a very good job for the Orioles for a couple years. Probably, again, one of these guys, kind of like one of their really good players in some bad years as well. Doug DeCinces. So going back a little bit more, but he was their third baseman. Had a tough job following Brooks. Had a tough job. So very good statistically, though. Doug DeCinces, no problem putting him in there. Doug DeCinces, he was in an era where they weren't as great at third base, so they had Doug DeCinces that was very good. They had trouble following him. He had trouble following a legend. Manny Machado, sweetest swing you'll ever see. Even now, Manny jumped off the screen when I saw him first time. I was like, man, this guy, there's no question about it. I was like, why did they bring up a guy from Double-A? Oh, that's why. That's why you see him. Manny was fantastic as well. Melvin Mora, I have him at third. He played so many positions. Most of his at-bats were at third base. He was fantastic. Another outstanding guy. Bit underrated even as a good Oriole. I think Manny was really good. I think Melvin was really good. Melvin could hit, period. I think he's a good hitter. I think you could put him anywhere in the order. And there's no question, the late, great Brooks Robinson, I don't think there's any question if he's the greatest defensive third baseman of all time. No question about it. Shout out Brooks, R.I.P. Brooks. No question about it. Maybe Mr. Oriole to a lot of people. I don't think there's any question about it. Holds it defensively, not close. Not close to him. Offensively, pretty much not close. Better defender, I think, than offensive player. But make no mistake, he was a good offensive player. No question about it. Shortstop, Mike Bordick. He actually, again, replaced Cal at shortstop. Mike Bordick, I think, was better than what people thought he was. He's not going to get the recognition, but he was pretty good as a defensive player. A good, solid defensive shortstop career. I thought that's what he was. I think that's a good assessment of him. J.J. Hardy, same. Better offensively. I thought his offensive numbers popped at times. I think there was a couple years where he had better offensive numbers, where he hit more, where he did a little bit more. But I think that was pretty good for J.J. Hardy. I definitely think they belong on the list. I think he's above Bordick because he had better offensive numbers. Miguel Tejada was a phenomenal offensive player. Offensive player, all-star, outstanding. They actually turned it around. They actually showed a commitment. Actually, one of the last guys they actually showed a long-term commitment to getting him from Oakland. Outstanding hitter for so many years. Hit for power, hit for speed. One of those guys, like, he out-hit the position, shortstop, defensive position. He hit as well as anybody. Mark Belanger, so many years with the Orioles as a defensive shortstop, definitely. Hey, look, you had Brooks at third, you had Mark Belanger at short. So definitely that was a great combination. One of the greatest hitters, stat-wise, no question about it. And there's no doubt, number one, Cal Ripken Jr., the all-time leader of games played consecutive in MLB. Cal was superhuman. What the fact that he was able to do that was beyond crazy. I mean, it's you wouldn't even think about doing anything today like that. He was superhuman. There was no question about it. Only thing about negative Cal, I will say, as great as he was, great, and leads pretty much every offensive category. Leads pretty much every offensive category. The only thing, I wonder how good he would have been without the streak. I always think, in a weird way, as cool as the streak was, with Cal, I think it almost brought him down a little bit, as weird as that is to say, because he played so many games in a row. Like, if he had arrested, because you saw that later in his career, his numbers came back up. His average and everything came up because he was taking games off where he never did. So you wonder how good he would have been if he did take games off. But then we wouldn't have the streak, which is what he's known for. So definitely, there you go. Orioles all-time infield as well. Next week, we're going to do outfield. We're going to do relief pitcher. We're going to do managers. So we're going to do that. So very proud of that. So thank you. Joining us this week for the Ravery Sports Podcast, Baltimore Sports Podcast for fans like me. Let's go Ravens Monday night in Santa Clara as we beat the Niners. Have a great day. Thank you for watching.